Welcome to a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Are you woke right? Are you woke left? Are you just a filthy liberal? Liberalism is a mental disorder, and the enlightenment was a mistake. Hence, where we're at today. Let's talk about that. Why is society in decline? Why is the West under attack? Why is Islam in full offensive in every aspect of their propaganda course? Why do the Jews want to destroy you? Why are Christians becoming emasculated, effeminate faggots? And why is the world in disarray? Perhaps prophecy is being foretold, and perhaps it had to lead from the worst generation in the history of humanity, the age of unreasonable reason. Let's get to the show. Welcome to Legacy News. I am the legacy of Jennifer Kaiser. This is Andrew Joseph. Welcome to Legacy News, episode 65. Andrew, is society on the decline?
I believe it's been on the decline for a while, yeah.
When do you suspect the decline, the beginnings of the decline happen? If you could put a timeline on, a time frame.
Damn that Charles the Fat.
Okay, so you're going all the way back to the Middle Ages and the split up of Charlemagne's empire, basically.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you know,
I would disagree on that.
The United States government, that didn't help anything.
I would actually just say the formation of the United States, period, was the culmination of wokeism in its realest terms, because the Constitution is a doctrine of communalism. That's communism, everybody. The United States Constitution is a document, a contract of socialist decree, proto-socialist decree. Obviously, socialism in its term would not be completely used until about the mid 19th century, and then of course you have the Marxist movement after Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. But the United
Who
States,
sent letters to Abraham Lincoln?
Karl Marx did send letters to Abraham Lincoln. Sure, actually, I don't think it was direct. Well, maybe it was. I know that
He just there's no evidence he ever actually saw it.
Abraham Lincoln. I don't think Abraham Lincoln actually received any correspondence from Karl Marx, nor would he probably have actually cared about Karl Marx as much as his regime was tyrannical. We were at a time of war, and he took advantage of that. But the Republicans were founded by socialists, yes, but Lincoln was truly a moderate, so he was able to grab a hold and use what he had. He was not a big friend of the radicals, which were the true believers in their socialist revolution of what the Republican Party was supposed to be founded upon. But he was very close with Horace Greeley, a former United States congressman and an editor and founder of the prestigious newspaper at the time, the New York Times Tribune, yeah. And Greeley actually had many a correspondence with both Marx and Engels. He actually had Marx somewhat on a short payroll. Ironically enough, Marx wrote for the Tribune quite a few times actually, but then had a dispute with Greeley and abruptly left because he wasn't getting paid his fair share. He wasn't getting paid enough, oddly enough, for a socialist.
Oh, that's kind of wild.
Yes. And then, of course, Greeley was very close with Alvin Beauvais, who was in the inner workings of the creation of the Republican Party, which was founded effectively in its official capacity in Wisconsin. And actually, Beauvais actually had a socialist structured commune experiment, a little social experiment that went on in the early 1840s. It was an absolute failure because that's socialism for you. Kind of wild. I mean, it's actually intriguing that he would try this. I mean, that he would actually set this up. One thing I would say that it failed, and this is just my personal opinion, the pedophilia. Beauvais was very much notable to his lust for certain perversions, and that would be chasing after your young daughters.
I see.
So, but another thing is just, I mean, human beings are meant to innovate through cooperatively competing, and his experiment was more based on a commune style of sharing, and we can share, but we're not
Incest.
that's not our motif.
Well, I'm just saying, legally speaking, there would be a form of legal incest like the current law system.
Yeah, legal. So yeah, I mean, that's effectively what the Constitution is. I mean, it's legal incest. It's combining all the good things of the Articles of Confederation, a mesh with what the Anti-Federalists were able to slip in there, known as the Bill of Rights, and then combine it all with the old world UK, Great Britain style parliamentary politics all in one. So you got your constitutional republic.
Wow, this has been a great episode so
Democracy.
far. 10 minutes. We've already covered faggotry. We've covered incest, and we've covered what's it called, pedophilia.
Pedophilia, yeah, pedophilia. Sounds. I mean, to break it down, I mean, the United States was effectively founded by Freemasons. So, I mean, depending on all the conspiracy theories out there that aren't possibly conspiracy theories, especially as you go up and up and up into the higher degrees, uh, there might be some faggotry and some incest and some pedophilia when it comes to the Freemasons. So,
Well, apparently, according to Chinese 4chan, Xi Jinping is a member of the Freemasons,
probably would not be
according to the
surprised if they're all
translation that I
interlinked.
saw. I'm sorry, I don't
Mm,
speak Italian. I speak a little Japanese. I don't speak
mm,
Chinese. That's just next
So
level shit for me.
is that what Chinese is? Chinese is just Italian because of Marco Polo.
I guess so, yeah.
So,
But at least they
anyways,
ain't woke right.
Yeah, at least they're not woke right. They're woke left, or maybe they're just moderates playing off the useful idiots of the woke left because that
They're
is how
middlemen.
Lenin intended. Yeah, and they're
They're
middlemen.
middlemen.
Exactly.
There's always
Exactly.
a middleman.
And that's it. That's effectively what Lenin's revolution and his Bolshevik revolution, or actually his hijacking of the Bolshevik revolution, was all about. Was utilizing the morons, the libertarians and the anarchists and the socialists and the serfs that just wanted a little bit of freedom, the peasantry and all this. Like, yes, I said anarchists. He used all these retards that didn't actually understand or convolute anything of reality, but wanted to dismantle the state, but didn't have a goal set for what to come later. So what do? Well, you get them all together and you use them, and then you dismantle everything, and then you create the state in your image. And then you get rid of the useful idiots. You liquidate the assets, as the Nazis would say they did with their Holocaust.
Yeah.
Once
Well,
you're
don't
done,
forget Leon Trotsky is also Hotsky because he wants to have a socialist degenerate police force that conservatives can scream home for.
mm, mm. Are you saying that he was just a typical Jew? He never lost his Judaism, did he?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as mixing that bag in there, but he was definitely something.
Well, just so you know, the Bolsheviks were founded by Jewish Zionists.
I know.
Now, not to say that Stalin didn't get rid of them during his purge. He did. In order to consolidate his own power and become the sole dictator of the proletariat. There is no
Right?
dictatorship of the proletariat. It's the dictatorship of the man of steel, baby.
Yeah.
Got to get rid of the Jews, the creators of the Bolsheviks.
So much for
Stalin didn't.
a
Yeah.
communist revolution.
Yeah. Now, everything that we said right here would get misconstrued as woke right by somebody by the name of James Lindsay if he was listening to this, because that motherfucker is a Marxist piece of shit. He says he's anti-Marxist. He's an anti-communist, but he absolutely does act like
He's creating a
Marxist.
faction within libertarian circles.
Libertarians. Libertarians
He's
have their own
carving out
issues.
he's carving out an audience for himself.
Is he going back to what libertarianism was originally about? Libertinism and perversion and individual freedom of lust and desire and doing whatever we please with no consequences, no moral code of whatsoever. You know, the French proto-socialists of the 18th century.
No, I don't think so.
I think so. He seems like he's a degenerate, mainly because he comes from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, I see. Just because I live there, that means I'm a degenerate, huh? I don't live there now.
Say that.
I used to live there.
I didn't say that. I mean, you're the one that says that Knoxville has some issues, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, every city's got issues. But the city of Knoxville, really progressive.
Very progressive, and that's where James Lindsay comes from, the city of Knoxville.
So there you go.
So, should we get into this video and talk about it?
I suppose
have no clue.
15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no clue what this video is about. We're going in blind. I want to discuss it. I want to listen to it. I have no clue what it's really about. I have an inkling of what it's about, but let's dive in.
If young men want to save the West, you're now woke right. Ooh. Now, look, back when this all kicked off in October, I wrote a piece for The Critic where I said, without a clear definition, woke right begins to look like an attempt by yesterday's left to tone police, gatekeep, and redefine the right. That way, heterodox liberals position themselves as the sensible centre between two extremes and maintain their positions of intellectual credibility no matter how far the Overton window shifts. Antagonism will arise from left-behind liberals seeking to rearrange the furniture on their new political side without examining how their first principles rendered them vulnerable to woke subversion in the first place. So, woke right, I believe, was always a cudgel with which to beat actual social conservatives and Christians and post-liberals on the right, because it has become a refugee camp for the left me liberals who do not want to examine, because it is too painful, how liberalism was so vulnerable to woke subversion that it ended up in the last stage of the woke revolution, of which they were temporarily embarrassed. And instead, they would just rather rewind to the stage of revolution they were comfortable with, and they find it icky that they're surrounded by conservatives who want to undo the entire liberal project. And bear that in mind when we go through the following article by Axios. So Axios has said, inside MAGA's fight for Western civilization. Zoom in. For MAGA loyalists taking this long view, preserving Western civilization is the new Make America Great Again. They proclaim America as a Judeo-Christian country that's the successor to the great European civilizations of Greece, Rome, and the United Kingdom. They see a modern Western civilization as one that prizes freedom, the rule of law as they interpret it, meritocracy, and the nuclear family. Yes, that's all very particular to the countries that you name. Now, Western civilization is a concept that was popularized along with Judeo-Christian in the aftermath of the Second World War, where for, yes, purposes of ideological continuity, but being value neutral here, for matters of geopolitical expediency, Israel and the Jewish people, after the horrors of the Holocaust, were trying to engage in a PR exercise to closer tie themselves to the Christian West. The West being the bloc that was west of the Eastern Bloc, under the Iron Curtain, under the domain of what Dwight Eisenhower called the godless communism of the Soviet Union. And I think that's a pretty fair description. And Judeo-Christianity shares a origin point with the Old and New Testament, even if the New Testament threw out all of the laws of the Torah and only kept the stories of the Tanakh. And of course, there are parts in the Talmud where certain rabbis disagree with the presence of Jesus and condemn him to boiling in a lake of excrement forever. But not all Jews abide by that, so we can't judge them collectively. Of course, after the Nazi atrocities and the precarious fate of the newly established state of Israel, there were lots of people who were interested in forging stronger ideological ties between Christians and Jews. One of the best examples of this actually is Will Herberg. He wrote a 1955 book, Protestant, Catholic, and Jew. I think it's in a box somewhere because I've just moved, but it's not on the shelf behind me. He coined the phrase cut flower culture that you've probably heard used by the likes of Jordan Peterson, Dennis Prager, and Ayaan Hirsi Ali. That the concept is that, much like the city-states of old that would take soil from the old state and plant it in the new state, or Constantinople, which bragged about having a relic of Troy in the center of its city, showing it had continuity from old Rome and old Greece in the new Christian empire. If you take a seed from a withering flower and plant it, you can regenerate a lost culture, but only if it's connected to its roots. And the argument was that America is a flourishing flower. It's peaceful, it's prosperous, it's wealthy, especially after the Marshall Plan extrapolated so much money from the declining British Empire and made America the global hegemon. And it's also the city on a hill, as Governor John Winthrop of the Plymouth Rock founders said it would be. It would be the new Jerusalem. But in order for it to flourish, that flower needs to be connected to the roots of Old Jerusalem, which, of course, with the establishment of Israel, had just come under the domain of a Jewish government again, and had sought to keep the holy sites of Christianity better preserved than if they were under the domain of an illiberal Islamic empire. So this settlement, this sort of engendering of stronger ties, was a post-war project, and it came to its apotheosis in the aftermath of the Cold War, when the evil empire had been defeated. But then when
Your microphone is muted.
What? What? Did he just say a liberal Islamic empire? What the hell does
It's
that
so it
mean,
seems.
Andrew?
Well,
that-
obviously he's talking about Iran.
Is that basically judging by those words right there, is that the secular liberal West with all of its fuckery, all of its backwardness, all of their feminine emasculating concepts of destroying man, specifically white man, because of Europe, its position in Europe and the United States, are the Marxists utilizing the Islamic doctrine of full jihad to take over the world and make it Muslim, submit to Allah? Are the Muslims the useful idiots to the communists?
Well, I mean, I guess to a certain degree, they did play ball with them.
I mean, one concept is for Islam you have jihad of the pen, jihad of the tongue. What else? Jihad of the sword, obviously. But what is going on in Europe? It's not really a jihad of the sword. It's literally opening yourselves up to allow what the initial First Crusade and prior to that, as the Muslims wrapped around Christendom in the Middle East and North Africa and swooped in through Spain, Europe was the stopping point, the delay to save
Yeah.
Christendom from the Islamic heresy.
And they're bringing more people in now from the Middle East.
And now you have this opposite effect where
And they want to include Turkey as a member of the member nation of the European Union. How many
Turks,
people in
man.
Turkey are not so progressive, even though it's a Western style Islamic country?
Well, the problem with Turkey is the Turks are probably the most highly profound in the interpretations of the Quran and of Muhammad's sayings as well. So Turkey would be the Turks would be the best to utilize in an infiltration tactic where we've progressed. We're secularized. We allow for all this freedom, but in reality, they're just swooping in to destroy you and your culture, and eventually it's going to culminate, and the caliphate will be reborn.
Well, I mean, it's not like Islam hasn't been to Europe before.
No. I mean, the last major battle in Europe that probably saved Europe from Muslim advance was the Battle of Vienna. I mean, you have many battles. You have the first initial battle between the West and Islam that kind of put them at a standstill was the Battle of Yarmouk. That precedes even Tours. Obviously, you have the Battle of Tours that stopped the Muslims in their tracks after they absorbed the Iberian Peninsula. So, I mean, and then you just had your little skirmish here and there, but it does seem like the trek that liberalism is going in their secularization of society, it's to destroy society, and they will use any means necessary to destroy the society that we have, to go backwards and implement, I guess, a transhumanist, technocratic, feudalist society of a one world government.
Well, it is.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how do you tame the Islamic horde, who within their actual teachings is to enforce the submittance to Allah for everyone, or you die. You either submit or you die. I
Well,
mean, there's other factors. There's jizya, which still, I mean, you can pay the ransom. You can become a second-class citizen and pay tax, but I mean, and be a poor peasant, a dhimmi, basically a subjugated peasant. But at this rate, I think it's two sides of one coin. There's no third step at this point. They want to make you submit because they're losing ground. There's more. There's probably I think I read or listened to something. There's more Muslims as they're discovering through the internet and social media. The internet's wonderful, through the fallacies of the Quran and Muhammad and the teachings of Muhammad. There's more Muslims that are turning away from Islam every day.
yeah,
And they say Christianity's losing people. Christianity's actually gaining people, surprisingly.
especially Gen Alpha and Gen Z.
Gen Alpha is just a little too young right now. But yeah, Gen Z is here in the West are really becoming a little bit more Christianized, and I think that's because they see the issues of the day and what secularism has caused, the decay of social structures, the decadence of culture, and then of course they look at the economic side, the centralization of economics and the inflation of your savings from the devalue of the dollar. I mean, why not submit to God and love? Because salvation, they're
All
looking for
healthy.
salvation. They're looking for salvation.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that the European governments are just letting people in left and right without any real qualifications from the Middle East. I guess I could see them trying to. I'm not saying it's right, but I could see them trying to pitch the argument that, oh well, if they get some exposure to our Western ideas, and they'll want to go back to where they're from, and they'll try to implement it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. Actually, that's all they're going to do is motivate them to take more control over the territory that they've established.
Well, I mean, I guess to a liberal, I mean, I guess they're all right with rape gangs, literal rape gangs in Germany, France, and especially the UK. That's
Yeah.
Islam for you, everybody, because they really want that yellow haired woman,
Mm.
white women.
And they're bringing them in.
What's interesting with what you're saying is what Europe is doing. They're allowing for, I mean, unregulated influx of immigration from the Middle East and North Africa that are predominantly Muslim, but they take a standstill and stop those who are Christian. They do regulate those that are coming in that happen to be Christian, and even Jew for that matter. But I mean, the Jews at least have Israel if they absolutely want to go elsewhere. But
Right.
but yeah, they stop they stop it at Christianity. But then if you look at the history of Marxism and the Bolshevik movement and how the socialist revolutions entail and what led
Yeah.
to the Bolshevik movement and eventually the Soviet Union, who were the biggest targets of the Bolsheviks? Who did they kill
The
more
Jews.
of?
The Jews.
No, not the Jews. Not the Jews. The Christians.
Mm.
Because we stand solid. It's
Yeah.
that factor of solidarity. We don't submit to any other
Identity.
authority rather than God. Our identity is through Christ. So the Orthodox churches of Eastern Europe and of Russia were relatively persecuted at a higher rate than anybody really, and there were others. I mean, it was all ethnic. It was all ethnic and religious cleansing.
Yeah.
So
the rise of the Mujahideen and other Muslim militias meant that the West was now defined as the Judeo-Christian liberal bloc from the heritage of Roman law, from the philosophies of Athens, from the fighting spirit of Sparta, and from the Mosaic law in Jerusalem and the birth of the Savior in Bethlehem, versus the Islamic world and their post-communist and liberal allies in the likes of China and now Russia, the sort of BRICS nations. The West came to define that, and that's why Israel is now lumped in with the West despite its geographic proximity. Again, I'm just giving a sort of value-neutral analysis of this. This is the kind of argument you'll find in Ben Shapiro's The Right Side of History, that the West is summed up by Rome, Athens, and Jerusalem. And so for Axios to act like this is just a new revelation to them, or to stumble upon this as a strange concept, is basically playing hatchling. They're acting like they were born yesterday, they just woke up, and that they've just understood with unalloyed horror the fact that MAGA seeks to conserve what is particular about their own civilization. I would get even more particular than the phrase the West. That's why I don't really use it very often, because it only defines our countries and our cultures in opposition to the things that are existential threats to them. It's the Schmittian idea that your political friends are found by external existential threats bringing you together. Instead, what national conservatives would like to do, which is the strong strain of the philosophy that runs through MAGA, thanks to J.D. Vance being a student of René Girard and Rod Dreher and Patrick Deneen, what they seek to do is preserve everything particular to their country. The reason that you say American culture or British culture is because those cultures are the possessions of the people that formulated them in a place and time. This is what J.D. Vance meant by America is not a nation of ideas. It is a nation occupied by a people who had those ideas, which is why they belong to them in the first place. And this is why he has had his family buried in a cemetery in Kentucky for generations, and that's where he'll be laid to rest. They are people in a particular place over time who practice a set of beliefs, and those beliefs become a culture which belongs to them. Contrast that with liberal universalism of both, yes, the woke progressive left, but also the left behind liberals, who are now using the phrase woke right, who believe that you can make laws for everyone because there is an anthropology of universal human sameness. Everyone is just a fungible, disposable consumer unit, pried apart by the happenstance of geography, because Pangea broke up originally, but we were all living in something akin to a secular Garden of Eden. We were all living in a state of freedom and equality. And so if you enter the Rawlsian veil of ignorance and strip yourself of all cultural prejudices, through a thought exercise, you can make laws and a cultural condition that is suitable for all people in all times and all places. And therefore, anything that smells like particularism or national conservatism is anathema to them. And this drive in national conservatism is also being driven by a surge in Christianity among young men, something Axios is also very upset by. And Christianity, despite accusations from Nietzscheans who have good critiques of socialism, but I think incorrect critiques of Christianity, that it is a universalizing doctrine of weakness. Remember, the final verse in the Gospel of Matthew was, "Go forth and be a minister to all nations." It was not try to reconstruct the Tower of Babel again, make one universal homogenizing system, but good this time. So Christianity is actually very respective of people's cultural particularities, which exists in times and places, which is why evangelization needs to be ergonomic to people's cultural sensibilities. It's not just a cookie cutter imprint ideology that impresses itself upon a people, and then all of the leftover dough that falls outside the imprint is to be discarded. Their culture is just to be thrown away, and they're to conform to the system. That's what liberalism does, based on the blank slate anthropology that we're all the same underneath, and that differences in economic outcomes, in education, in culture, in preferences are all entirely arbitrary. And so you can take a person from this part of the world, drop them in a liberal society, and they'll slot seamlessly in like so many cogs, because we are all latently equal deep down and underneath. And this brings us to the phrase woke right, because what the woke right is, as a tool, is a stick with which the establishment mainstream can pick up on behalf of uncomfortable liberals to beat their socially conservative, nationally conservative, and strongly Christian compadres, because they don't feel comfortable sharing the right with them. The right was their refugee camp, and they now want it to be their new home in which they can rearrange the furniture at the expense of the homeowners.
Any opinion on that, Andrew? We're not going to watch the whole
Well,
video. It's a long video.
yeah.
We're closing in the 35 and a
Well,
half
I mean,
minutes.
it makes me think about Teddy Roosevelt, right? And I mean, he's got a history. He created his own political party. I mean, like I said, factions, right? There is always going to be a time and place for people to splinter and try to create their own, their own political territory, and that's what's happening right now. There's a lot of movement going on with MAGA, right? And so this is the opportunity that you would see the foundations for another political implementation. Not saying this could be successful in the long term, but at least he's giving it an effort.
So, do you think that the political maneuvers of, say, the woke right, as well as the woke left, is utilizing the concept, the natural concept of tribalist and factionalist idea of humanity to cannibalize itself?
Well, I wouldn't say it's cannibalizing itself, but it's just a natural part of how some people's brains functions, is that they get tired of the same old thing, and so they'll implement. They'll try to mix and match and see what they can develop and strain out and be successful. That's a lot. Was type 7 is a and we've already said enough for like sexual stuff, but this is fetish, right? These are fetishized ideas.
So it's collectivism at its finest. It's the goal of disemboweling culture, which is many. There are different various cultures. So yeah, so you're destroying elements of people's cultures within their own niche in order to combine it all into a slew of collectivist ideology, and then effectively hand over the power to an authority that can rule over that collective.
It's
and
like
be
wrestling,
God.
right? Eric Bischoff wrote that book for WWE, even though he said he didn't like writing it, but they asked him to write it anyways. Controversy creates cash, right? If you can take root with an idea and you can get enough momentum and strength behind it, it may not last forever, but you're going to make some money off of it, and that's part of what this is trying to do.
They're trying to make some money off of it.
Well, I mean, they're virtue signaling, they're grandstanding, right? So
I mean,
there's an audience. There's potential to solicit, donations and all kinds of different stuff.
So what you're trying to say is, in the background, there are powers that be that actually are controlling the strings of the puppets. And with that, they are using that to erode the value of people's concepts of society.
Yeah. It's type 7, like I said, but then 6, they weed out. They do the gossip, so it's leading into type 6. It's 7 wing 6.
They're so enthusiastic to jump for joy into the cultish behavior of retardation.
We need a normal society. We need to clean up society, and we need to be enthusiastic about it.
So we need to come back to God.
I mean, that's a fair. And you remember, it goes 6 to 7 too. So they swing, but the door swings both ways.
So the 7s,
it's a blend.
Need to be the 7s going to 6 need to be eradicated so the 6s can go back to 7.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say eradicate, but that's a little strong. But I guess it could apply.
I mean, I'm starting to think that perhaps we are in a just war. We're in a spiritual war.
That's something that's been talked about for a long time.
That
And then
is
you have
actually.
the Greco-Romans, who dealt with a totally
Mm,
different ethical system, but we're not talking about that
per,
right now.
well, I mean,
We'll be
to
here all
close
day.
out, yeah, we will be. But to close out, I will say, because he took the name Leo, Leo the 14th. Well, Leo the 13th, his predecessor, the 13th Leo, that took the throne of the papacy. Actually, in the I believe it was in the 1880s or the early 1890s. He supposedly had this vision. He went to bed, had a dream. This vision that he stepped into was a conversation between Christ and Satan, talking about exactly. I mean, you had the rise of socialism and progressive movements, and inevitably that would lead to the Bolshevik movement and the rise of the Soviet Union. You'd have the two world wars. Obviously, look at the 20th century, and there was the era of the central bank caused the era of total war and total destruction and genocide, and it's just total hate, right? Well,
Yeah.
in his vision, um, he overhears a conversation between God and Satan basically says, tells God, like, give me 100 years and I'll destroy your church. I'll destroy every fabric of your church. And God took the bet and he said, okay, I'll give you 100 years. Because, I mean, God, knowing that resilience is key, you can't defeat us. You can try, but you cannot defeat the fabricate the fabric of the church, the foundations. And so he took the bet and he said, "You have 100 years. Go right ahead." It also what's interesting is it also culminates to the revelations of the apparition of Our Lady of Fatima to the children of Fatima, Portugal in 1917, which effectively revisited that visitation that Leo the 13th had. Well, anyways, he was so enamored and so cold to the and numb to the fear of this extraordinary event. I mean, this is a scary situation to overhear this, that he ended up going and writing a prayer for spiritual warfare to Saint Michael the Archangel. I'll butcher the prayer. I don't have it up right now to read it. But in accordance to that, that's kind of makes you wonder, like, are we really in this spiritual warfare? Are we at the
Right.
culmination of the? I mean, it's now been about over 100 years now. Almost going to be 100, about 108 years since the apparition of Our Lady of Fatima in 1917, and well over the 100-year period of Leo the 13th's vision and its inevitable prayer to Saint Michael, the spiritual warfare prayer. Um, and it's just intriguing that this pope would take Leo the 14th, and then the culmination of everything that's going on in society, the politics, the fight for liberalism within the factions of what we refer to now as the woke left and the woke right, what's going on in Israel and Gaza, what's going on in Europe with the Ukraine and the Russian saga, what's going on in Western Europe with their open border and their socialist political ideation just being unraveled through just decay, submitting to one culture over another because of equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, whatever the fuck that means. I mean, eh, I mean the economic downtrend that we're seeing because of the inflation of our world reserve. I mean, and the eroding of savings, and people can barely survive, that are on the low end, going paycheck to paycheck just to raise their families. I mean, and you've also seen an influx of people. You're starting to see more people, I think, come back to start to kind of come back to that spirit, to the church. I mean, they call themselves like spiritualists. I mean, but they're holding faith in something. They're finding something in order to substitute all the negative. But you're seeing the fact that a lot of people have turned away from God over the last 100 years, kind of response to Nietzsche's God is Dead book, right? And you've seen all this chaos and this violence and all this disarray and the division, and you start wondering, perhaps Leo the 13th really did. He wasn't lying. This was a vision, and he actually oversaw Christ and Satan making a bet and saying, all right, well, we're resilient. We will fight you. And Satan actually being permitted to wage his war.
I mean, you caught that promo there. That reminded me very much of a Black Pill video by Devin Stack that I guess we could try to check out next week, maybe, if you're interested in it. I'll send it to you.
Let's do it. Let's check it out. Let's do that next week for one of the shows. So, but yeah, I mean, you can call it black pilled. I mean, it's very black pilling when you think about it, but then there's always the white pill, because
it's funny because this channel is called Black Pill, but it's black and white, and it's like it's the yin and yang. It's mixed together, and it puts over the white pill unintentionally, or maybe it's intentionally. It's just doing kayfabe. Who knows?
I mean, that's good. That's good thinking.
Yeah. So, but that's for next week's episode. We'll check it out.
So yin and yang, everybody, find that balance. So ignore the woke left, ignore the woke right, ignore the politics. We're here to allow you to think. We're here to allow you to understand the concept of thinking freely for yourselves.
Pretty much.
So, anything else to conclude this episode, Andrew? Gone way over time.
I'll be following up with the next week's episode.
All right. Well, Allah Akbar. God is greatest, and I'm not talking about the Islamic God that is most likely Satan, the deceiver. I'm talking about Yahweh. I am, for I am. Praise be God. Live long and prosper. Thank you again, everybody. And there's an old man behind you.
Why? Did you send him over here again?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to have to leave now, but I was sure I came in by that door over there. Hey, man, where's the door to get out of here?
Oh, it's right over there, sir.
Right over where?
The exit sign? It's that door right there.
That red sign?
Yeah, just go right that way.
Okay.
I think it went down the wrong door.
Where am I? Hey, what the fuck's wrong with you? That's not the right door.
Sir, you're going to want to go to the one with the exit. You went to the door to the side there.
I went to the right doors of where you pointed me to, you fuck.
I pointed you to the exit.
Man, you're fucking with the wrong guy.
I'm sorry.
You see this bulge on my hip? You know what that is?
That's a gun.
That's a Glock. You're fucking with the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Don't ever send me to the wrong